Hi guys, how are you? This is Noelle from New York Chats, a blog talking about all things organized from a variety of lenses with our friends, family, clients, or sometimes just me. Um, so today I want to talk to you about Substitute Teaching 101. As many of you may or may not know, in addition to being a professional organizer, project manager, administrator, and for the past over 20 years, I have now transitioned to add to my skill sets into teaching, full-time teaching. But before that journey started, I had to get a series of certifications, and I started from volunteering at my son's schools twice a week when I didn't have projects or was commuting from Miami to New York, to Metro New York, excuse me. I was able to take some time off, and during that transition, I decided to, again, add to my skill sets and become a full-time teacher. But while I was doing that, I did substitute teaching for almost a year and a half. Now including my teaching experience, it's a full 2 years. 2 years and like 3 months to be exact. Anyways, so I wanted to talk to you about substitute teaching. I've seen some good things and I've seen some bad things. So I figured I'd take my experience, the feedback that I've gotten from professional teachers and even long-term substitutes on this past 2-year journey, and share those with you. If substitute teaching is something that you'd like to get into, whether it's because you have a trajectory to become a full-time teacher, highly recommend it if that's your angle. It's great in-class experience. You get to meet the staff. You also get a sense of what schools you may want to work in, what schools you don't want to work in, subject areas, if you want to do special needs, if you want to do ESC, ESOL, etc. So there's so many benefits, and I can do at a later time, I'll do a video on my journey to actual getting my certifications with TAP, woohoo, Teachers Accelerated Program, which was amazing in every way. But let's talk about Substitute Teaching 101. So I'm having my little chai here, so excuse me. So let's talk. So these are like the first 6 points on substitute teaching. Thing one, be on time. It is important to be on time. Trust me, I myself have been guilty about sometimes you're delayed, but if you're going to be late, it is very, very important that you communicate that to either to two things, to the platform that you're using. I used Kelly Education, which is nationwide. I will put the link below they are a nationwide human capital outsourcing company, meaning they send people like a recruiting agency to different places for different opportunities. One of them being substitute teaching. They are registered. They're a vendor with the Miami-Dade Board of Education, but they again are nationwide. So it's great. So if you're looking at this video and you're not in South Florida or in the Metro New York City area, not a problem. So Kelly, you can register with Kelly Substitute. It's all done on an app. There's a series of other platforms depending on your district and in your state, but most of them are super easy to navigate. It's easy for the school and it's easy for you the sub, because you can see your hours, you can see what school. You can schedule the time that you're available, put all that information in. So it makes it very, very easy for you to be able to navigate substitute teaching. And it's a la carte, meaning you do substitute teaching when you're available. And schools are especially public schools, are short staff, so they will take whatever you have. Of course, the schools have hours, so it's not like, oh, I'm going to work 3 hours on Thursday. No, that's not how it works. Schools are usually from 7:30 to 3:30, or from between 8:30, 9 till 4 o'clock. Again, depending on your city, your state, and your district, and the type of school, private versus charter versus magnet, etc. But again, to bring it back, be on time. If you're going to be delayed for whatever reason, make sure that you communicate that to Kelly Education, or again, whatever platform. I always would take the extra initiative those few times that, because of life, I would recommend to also contact the school that you're assigned. If you have a relationship with them, meaning you frequently have substitute, then it makes it even easier, and you should have all the contact information for the administration, or the substitute locator, as they call them, which is usually the assistant to the principal, or one of the front desk or the registrar of your school, etc. So whoever that person is, communicate that to them. I like to over communicate when it comes to those things. You know, send it to Kelly, send it to whoever is, I would send it to the chair of the department if I was doing a long-term assignment, which once I got into the rhythm of it, I did a lot of long-term sub-assignments, meaning 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks, 4 months, etc. So I already had a relationship with the chair of the department of the subject of the grade that I was covering for that period of time. So there's nothing wrong with over communicating, especially when it comes to substitute teaching. This is not like corporate America or dealing with a client where sometimes you may or may not have someone to cover you, or you can make arrangements, or you can take the call via Zoom or Google Chats, whatever you're using. These are children. And like I said, especially public schools and just schools in general are a lot of times short staff. You can't just be like, okay, guys, we're going to just transfer the call into Zoom because Miss Ramos is late. No, that's not how it works. These are kids. They're relying on you. Teenagers, they're relying on you. The school's relying on you to be present for them. So it's not to put you on a guilt trip, but and these are kids. I call them my babies. They're my babies. Especially, like I said, I grew very fond of my students and admiration because of, I built a rhythm with them, right? A consistency when I was doing something for a long time on those long-term assignments, and then transcending into my own personal classroom. So yeah, be on time. Thing 2, like I said, check in with your office, right? When you arrive, you get your assignment, you check in with your office. I would always recommend, just as a side tip, if you're able to, you should know in advance what school you're in. You will know. But sometimes if you pick up a last minute assignment the day before and it's after hours, you don't get a chance to call the school. But if you do have that opportunity, I would recommend just taking it upon yourself, introduce yourself in the most professional manner, and check in with the school. Just be like, hey, what class, what subject, and what grade am I covering today, just to have prepared materials. And we'll get to that now. Number 3, prepare materials. So I have, and I'll put together at a later time a checklist that will be available in my link in bio on items that you should have. Apart from the 4 that I'm going to talk about it right now, to prepare. And the reason why it's good to call, because yes, you will be left materials by the teacher, but sometimes technology doesn't work if those materials require you to use technology, or the students may finish the assignment a little bit early. And usually 99% of the times the teachers have supplemental material, meaning they know their periods, they know their classes. So he or she will say, I know that period 3 is going to finish. Let's say, I'm giving an example if you're doing middle school, because that's the area that I've covered and the area that I'm certified in, the grade level that I'm certified in, So I would always have extra materials, crossword puzzles, like Kahoot, you play Jeopardy, just some ideas knotted down, and you're not required in any way to have these extra materials or spend any extra money on getting items for your school, for your classes that you're covering or class. But I like to be extra prepared, especially again as you get into the rhythm of something. It's something that you do frequently, or even if you do it once in a while, you still have a rhythm, right? So it's just one more thing to just be a little bit more, be organized, right? Be prepared, have contingency plans. As a project manager, it's all about having a buffer, being able to pivot. Teachers pivot a lot, even substitute teachers pivot a lot, depending, especially if you're doing like a long-term assignment, like over a week, you will be pivoting, because things happen. That's just life. So, prep and introduce yourself to your students. You walk into your classroom, if you're on a morning assignment, you usually get there between 20 to 30 minutes. You're assigned between 15 to 30 minutes before school actually starts. And that's because the administration wants to show you the lay of the land, where bathrooms are, who to contact, etc., roster of your students, which they will give you that. And usually a lot of the teachers, you have it also, the teacher leaves it for you, all the materials. And then I usually would recommend just on a board, if you've never done teaching, you've never dealt with students at all, at whatever age that may be, write your name on the board. write your name on the board and just put, good morning, students. My name is Miss Ramos. I will be your substitute covering for today, tomorrow, for the week, for whatever time period that is. And you don't even have to put that. Just introduce yourself, who you are. Why? Because you want to just establish, it's very important to have classroom management. And meaning you have to be able to manage your classroom. Whether you're there for an hour, for half a day, for a full day, which that's something that you can do. You can do half a shift, because sometimes they don't need you to stay the whole school day. It could be a half a shift where it's like, an example, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., right? Because then the kids are going to be doing something else, or the teacher's coming back, whatever the case may be. Or they're testing, or sometimes you'll do from like 11 till the end of the school day, which could be, again, 3:30 or 4. So you can do half days. That's another thing. Well, with Kelley Education, you can. I don't know with others, but I want to assume that you can. But you can always check with them, and you'll know, and as you start getting assignments. But yeah, and the reason why, because you want to be able to set a parameter. Like, let's establish, even though I'm the sub, there's a level of respect, there's a level of introduction, and they need to know who you are, right? Because if not, kids get very creative with what they want to call you. You can see my face, right? Okay. And I would take it even a step further, and I would write on my head, already had prepared, at least minimum of 3 class rules. If you got to use the bathroom, please ask me, even if they usually already know what their current teacher, their permanent teacher, has already established when it comes to classroom bathroom rules. But especially when you're dealing with the middle school or the older ones, they're very, they can be a little slick. I love them, but they can be slick. So you want to and not just that, just to have a flow, because it also gives you that, you're the authority figure. And sometimes they can take, like, the subs here, yes, free day, we're going to do whatever the hell we want. No, it's not that party. Yes, sometimes they might have a free day, but there's still rules and expectations. I'm very big on that. Rules and expectations, even as a long-term sub, rules and expectations. And as a permanent teacher, you better believe it. Expectations. At the end of the day, I expect you to conduct yourself. You should expect for me to conduct myself and teach you the lesson, and you need to reciprocate by following the lessons and being respectful to yourself, to your teacher, to your peers. So I would just set 3 ground rules, whatever you want those to be. Set your bathroom rules, set do's and don'ts, do's and don'ts. I'm not going to sit here and, I don't want to share what those rules should be, but just set up, 3 little ground rules. There's a saying that we have in Spanish, cuentas claras conservan amistades, meaning when we have clear parameters, we conserve a friendship. And I know that doesn't translate very well in English, but it's like when they know that you mean business and you're there to cover and to make sure they don't fall out of their timelines and their expectations for their teacher for that day, then there's a precedence, okay? And more importantly, it really helps you with respect and having control of your classroom. Once they're like, oh, and not to say you can't be fun and not to say that you can't be interesting, but parameters. Because these are students, we're not friends. Okay, so thing 4, follow the teacher materials. I know we touched upon it very, very briefly on my prior point, but it is vital, especially if you're covering, again, an assignment, if you're subbing for a class more than 2 days. Why? Because, the kids are not there to have a free day. Okay? That's just the reality. 2, there is expectations and there's goals to be met, not just for the class, but for their subject area, for the school. There is they're called benchmarks. All districts, all states have them, meaning every day, every quarter, every week, etc. Students have timelines of assignments and things that they need to have learned for the quarter, right? Or for the year, right? There's academic goals. And if you're covering a class for more than, let's say, 2 days, and the students haven't done anything because you're like, they're good, it's fine, it has a domino effect. It has a domino effect on the teacher when they come back, that then they have to go back and reteach the class or review, even if they still do that, right? Because they want to make sure that the kids understand the material, etc. So it's not your responsibility to teach the material, it's just to make sure that they have that they follow the assignments left regarding that material. But nonetheless, you want to make sure that you complete those materials that the teacher left. Yes, will sometimes the students not be able to complete it because of timelines, because some students learn faster than others. We all learn differently. You have special needs, etc. All those things into consideration, but at least you need to start it and at least have completed whatever. If it's 4 assignments, at least have completed half, right? And if not, then, you can always leave a note later and we'll get to that. But try your very best to follow the materials left by your teacher, okay? But again, like I said, technology, sometimes things get lost, sometimes things get spilled. You go in, a student comes in, hi, Miss So-and-so, and then the materials, they spill water. Oh my God, my 50 copies of the assignments are soaking wet, and you have to have a contingency plan. That's why I always say, if it's not required, if you're able to, try to prepare with some backup materials. And again, usually the teachers have supplemental items, or you kind of just have to take the materials that are soaking wet in coffee or in tea or in water or whatever that might have spilled, and have them write in a piece of paper, do the assignment on the board, etc. So you want to just always have that mindset, right? Have a backup plan, right? Because things happen. But nonetheless, they're doing something. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you want to have a class with classroom management issues? Don't give them, have a class that doesn't have anything to do. I'm like, yeah, but they're not, yeah. You want to have a class that can get out of order very quickly? Have a class that doesn't have anything to do. I mean, I can't say it enough. And I know there was a pause there. That was intentional. You know what I mean? They can get very creative, especially my middle schoolers. You know what I'm talking about, guys. I love you, but they're very ingenious in high school too. And not to say they're going to be like running around, but especially if you're covering the little runs, it is vital. You have to keep them busy. You have to keep them not entertained, busy. Their minds learning. There's been 1 or 2 times when I used to cover the little ones and things happen. They'd finish the assignment. Oh my God, what do? I already had a plan, a story, especially if you're doing like the 2nd and 3rd graders at their 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, that they're learning how to read or they're perfecting their reading. And they have, 3rd grade specifically, they have these big fast testing in the state of Florida where they have to pass it for their reading comprehension in order to move on to the upper grades. Read a story, have them read it to you. Give them characters. There's so many ways. And the classrooms are set up. The teachers, you'll see as you cover classes, teachers are very creative in how they decorate their classrooms, in resources readily available that you can literally look at a room and assess really quickly. Okay, there's this, there's that. I can use that. I can use this. I can use, whatever it is. Again, I'm a visual person. So for me, I'm able to literally look at a space and as a professional organizer and immediately, take mental picture of what's available and resources. Speaking of resources, and we'll get to that now when I talk about materials. Well, you know what? Let's talk about it. So you have the materials. You've prepped. You've already prepped. You've introduced. Let me backtrack real quick. When you're prepping and writing your name, writing your 3 ground rules, or even the day before, a couple things that you should have with you. Again, you don't need to have it. I would just recommend to have. Whether subbing comes to you as a 1 day a week, 2 day a week, 3 day a week, whatever the case may be. A notebook. I like chickens and roosters. A good friend gave me this, and I love it. So I would, just get a regular notebook. It doesn't have to be anything fancy like this. It could even be Post-it notes, just to write down some notes, questions, whatever, for yourself, to leave for the teacher, for administration, whatever the case may be. If you're going to do subbing, or at least you think like, hey, I could do this a couple times a week, or you're in the trajectory of wanting to become a full-time teacher or work in the academic space, get yourself one of these, a calendar. This one I got, I want to say like Family Dollar or Five Below. It's like a Five Below store here in South Florida. I think they're nationwide or on the East Coast. But I just got this one. Love it. It has, it has a lot of chicken scratch. Yes, I am very big. See, it has all my highlights, but nice and big. I write my notes when I'm covering, when I have clients, etc. I am very big on e-calendars and everything electronic and everything is synchronized. But I adopted this, I want to say about like 6 months into subbing. Because, again, technology sometimes and the reception in these schools, you don't get cell phone reception. And yes, your calendar in your phone shouldn't require Wi-Fi or internet service in order to work. But sometimes you're syncing things and things don't always sync. And technology doesn't always work. And so when that happens, you have your good old agenda. I haven't used one of these guys in literally prior to substitute teaching and now teaching in like 15 years. I was the person with that big, do you remember the at a glance? Comment below if you remember at a glance and if you know what I'm talking about. Or there's a store in New York called Kate's Paper that had these beautiful, beautiful custom leather bound agendas that I had one with engraved with my initials, very chic, and had notes and sections and I do. Anyways, at a glance. Comment if you know at a glance. You know what I'm talking about. All right. A pencil case or a pouch or something that you can put pens, pencils, highlighters, Post-its. Yes, I have reusable Post-its. Recycle, reuse, and repurpose. You know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, I'll put a link to our highlights. Big on that. Sustainability, people. It's the way of the future. It's the way of now. We won't have a future, but that's a whole other subject. Pens, pencils, the almighty red pen. I use it for grading. I love this thing. It's wonderful. It's like my Harry Potter one. Bippity boppity boom. I grade with red. I love it. It gives you like, oh, it's wonderful. I know you're like, this lady's crazy. I'm going to share what's in my bag, right? Restful Teacher. These were given to me by one of my teacher workshops. Sorry, I'm lost for words there for a minute. And one of the former teachers who does now counseling and stuff like that for teachers did these great manifest affirmation cards, which I love. You don't have to have these, but I took them out. I thought I'd share. Highlighters, whatever. Just have a little pouch or just a little, it can even be a Ziploc bag, guys. Just with like some pens, papers, pens, Post-its, highlighters. This was really cute. This was given to me by Teacher Appreciation Day when I was actually subbing, again, a long-time assignment. It was really humbling because, again, I wasn't their permanent teacher. And they were like, Miss Ramos, you've been with us and giving us stability. And, my mom just wanted to give you this as a thank you. So I thought that was really sweet. And I love it. Teaching with flair, right? You had your own thing. And now as a permanent teacher, love it, love it, love it. So, and of course, I would have a tote. So, 4 items, let me reiterate. A notebook or something to write on. An agenda. Sometimes these come 2 in 1, right? A pouch or something to just put your writing materials in there. Or you don't have to. Just make sure you have like a highlighter, pen, a pencil, etc. And then like a tote. I'm big on totes. I have my totes. I have a backpack. Something that you can carry all these things in. Now, speaking of materials. Yes, I know. You're like, lady, but doesn't the teacher have all this? Doesn't the school have all this? It's a school. They should have school supplies. Yes, they have all of that. But try your best to not touch the teacher's materials. People don't like for you to be finagling in their items. Yes, teachers, they are very generous. Yes, they're very nice. But do you really want somebody to enter your personal space? Because their classroom is their personal space. It's their students curated, the space that they've curated for their students for that academic year. Yeah, you can get a pen or pencil. It's not the end of the world, or a highlighter. That's what they prefer for you to not to use it. And if that's an issue or a hindrance, regarding if the kids are not going to be, finishing an assignment, then for you to worry about, oh, I forgot my pouch and I can't touch their stuff. No, but you want to be respectful. And on that note, let me elaborate a little bit on being respectful. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I've seen some good things and I've seen some bad things. And no judgment, but yes, you're teaching students. And yes, most of them have uniforms, again, depending on which state you're subbing. But you're still representing yourself. And it is important that you conduct yourself, that you conduct and you dress accordingly. Well, duh. Yes. But let me give you an example. I've seen situations, no, not being specific, where you are subbing as if you were going to the Food and Wine Festival with your spouse or with friends. Not appropriate. I've seen situations when you are subbing, you are a little bit salacious, for lack of a better term. You are subbing. You're in charge of sometimes young adults, or soon to be adults, or adults, because if they're in high school seniors, they are 18 years old, a lot of them are seniors, of legal age to vote. So be a good citizen. As a social studies certified teacher, be a good citizen. Meaning, it is important that you dress appropriately in the utmost professional manner. Do you need to go with a a three-piece suit and tie, or with, pumps and a suit? Absolutely not. I'm very casual. But yes, you need to wear an appropriate blouse or shirt. Schools get cold, so I would recommend as another side tip, have a sweater, have a cardigan, have a blazer. It gets chilly, especially if you are subbing in a state that the weather changes. And if you're in Southern Florida or in Southern California or in Arizona, in places where the weather is just, always sunny and shiny 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, sometimes the ACs don't work. And yes, we do change the students to classrooms that do have functioning AC, but in the interim, it gets a little warm. Nonetheless, please dress appropriately and accordingly, right? If you're meeting clients or friends, or you're going for an audition, you dress appropriately, right? Just a tip, okay? No judgment. This is an organic vlog, meaning unfiltered. Dress appropriately, please, okay? Again, you're dealing with young people. And even when you're dealing with adults, dress accordingly. Or as, I can't remember the song, know the assignment, okay? Por favor. It doesn't just represent you, but you represent the school. Even if you're just a sub, you represent the school. And sometimes when you're subbing, the schools gets visitors and state representatives and boards, and they do tours. If it's a magnet school, they're having tours of the school because they're promoting the school for the next academic year's upcoming class. So it is important. And if this is not something that you want to do long term, or if you're just doing it between gigs because you act or you freelance or do other creative things, you're still representing yourself, and you never know who you're going to meet, right? You never know if a parent's like, oh my God, my son or my daughter loves when you cover their class, and you're like, oh my God, thank you. And you might have something in common, and that can lead into another opportunity for whatever that may be. Nonetheless, please. On the subject of materials, next item. Item number 5. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Item number 5, you are not required, just very important, to grade any of the assignments, even when you're in a long-term assignment, like I was in the 6-month assignment, which was my longest assignment, but I've done 2 months, I've done 3 months, 2 weeks, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, which is my longest assignment. You are not required, nor should you be grading those assignments. Those are graded by the chair of the department of the subject area that you are covering. Okay, you are not allowed. I don't know in other states, but in the state of Florida, you are not allowed. Yes, can you look at them and kind of but the grade book, all of that, you don't ever have to worry about it because the administration and, like I said, the chair of the department of the subject that you're covering will take care of that. Okay, or the grade level, depending if you're doing elementary versus secondary, middle school or high school. Let's see. And last but not least, again, you don't have to do this, but I would just recommend it, is write a little note, especially if you're covering more than one day, to the teacher of, who might have misbehaved, any questions, anyone you had to send to the office, anyone that was absent. Let's talk about absent really quickly. when you check in and you're introducing yourself to your students, it is vital that you take attendance. I forgot to mention that. Muy importante. You're like, duh. No, extremely important. Because it's not just as important as completing those assignments, but it's important that the teacher, when he or she comes back, that they are aware of who was absent, who took what, who didn't, especially if they leave a quiz or something that's extremely vital for you to do. It is very important that they have an accountability of who's missing and who didn't, even though, yes, they could see it when they grade the papers. Yes, they could see it on their attendance roster when they come in that day, and they usually do. But one thing was that, that they don't have to worry about it. And again, they really, really appreciate it. And I can't reiterate it enough. If you're trying to develop a relationship with that school because it's a school that you may want to cover, or just for yourself, it's just one little thing that just shows that you're organized, you have structure, and that you cared for the students and for their class and did above and beyond of what was expected of you. You exceeded expectations. Just, hi, Mr. or Mrs. blah, 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 blah. Thank you so much for allowing me to cover your class today. Here's a recap of the day or of the week or the month or whatever. Okay? You don't have to leave your contact information. You can just close with your name and that's it. You are not required to leave your contact information. You actually shouldn't, just because it's a privacy. And nor the schools or the district expect you to, and many times it's not even allowed. That's it. If you have any questions, I really, really enjoyed subbing, as people usually say. I can hear it by the tone of your voice. It was, I can't even explain how valuable subbing for me was, especially when I decided to, again, become a full-time teacher in addition to everything else that I do. Because it was, you can do the books, you can do the IPAs. Yes, there are requirements, as I'm sure you all know, to becoming a full-time teacher. You have to have graduated a 4-year college or university. Obviously, you have to pass a background check. Yes, on background checks, substitutes do have an extensive background check, as they should, right? If you're in any space that has confidential information or that you're dealing with children, you need a background check. You do not need a degree to be a substitute. You do need at least be a high school graduate, at least in the state of Florida. Again, I can't speak for other states. With Kelley Education, if you decide to use Kelley Education as a substitute teaching platform, they will inform you of what are the requirements for that state or states, because I'm sure you're able to sub and be enrolled to substitute at different states. And a lot of times in the state of Florida, you also have to do a evaluation, sort of like a competency test. They call it a substitute teacher T1 lab. At least you have to do that in South Florida, just to see your competency, just basic skill sets. Do you need to know algebra and all that? No, you don't. I say that because social studies teachers and English language arts teachers and math is a very interesting subject. I'm certified to teach grades 5 through 9, social sciences, which includes for 5th grade, U.S. history, for 6th grade, U.S. history, for 7th, it would be civics, and then for 8th, world history. So any of those 3 subjects within the Department of Social Studies, I'm certified to teach. So for me, I was always very fortunate that I was able to cover social studies, but I had subbed from grades kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. And it was very interesting. But most of my subbing is in middle school, which led to, hence, me wanting to do middle school. I know people are like, it's an interesting age. I love my middle schools. They're the underdogs. People don't give me enough credit, right? We were all middle schoolers. It was a very interesting age in our life. All right, guys. So I hope these little tips helped you. Again, agenda. Something to carry: pens, pencils, markers, highlighters, Post-its. Something to write on. A bag, a tote. I will put a list of my a link to my shop of essential substitute teaching items under $20. Pay range. I don't really want to go into the pay range because, again, it depends on your state and on your district. It could be between $100 and 200. More in the middle range, 150, 175, 125, sort of. It also depends if you have higher education. If you have a bachelor's, if you have a master's, if you have a PhD, all those things add also to the amount of money that you get paid. And I want to assume, and I believe I've heard in other states, it also depends what grade levels and what type of schools you teach also may make a difference in your pay. But again, don't quote me on that. All that can be found in the Kelley Education website when you enroll with them. The link will be below. Also, the link to the shop of substitute teaching essentials under $20 is also below. I hope you found this information, if at all, helpful, resourceful. It might be something like, it's not rocket science, lady. It isn't. But it's important to build relationships, to build connections, to represent yourself well, and more importantly, to go in as organized as possible in any work environment that you're in or freelancing gig. And with that, have a great day, guys. Stay organized. Bye.